In this video, I will show you how to make your voice sound better when recording with my latest dbx 286s settings. So I've had this unit for 6 years. In fact, my last video was just about 6 years ago on how to set up the dbx 286s. I figured after all your comments on the last video, it definitely needs updating with my current settings and how to get this set up quickly for your recording studio, your podcast, your radio show, or your live stream. Whatever it is you're doing, the dbx 286s can make you sound better. Let's look at the dials, and for this example, I'm using the AKG C414XL2 microphone. It's a really good condenser mic, and let's first of all look at this dial here, which is the mic preamp gain. So the more I turn that up, the more signal I'll get from my microphone. I don't need too much. I should be lighting up the green lights, possibly even the yellow light occasionally, but never the red light. That's a clip. Oh, that hurts my ears. Yeah, so set it so it's nicely tickling the yellow occasionally. If you're using a dynamic mic instead of condenser, you'll find the signal will be a lot lower, so you will want to turn this gain up more, particularly for things like the Heil PR40 and definitely the Shure SM7B. They'll need a load of gain going in and possibly even a cloud lifter to increase the volume in a clean method. But generally, I've got mine set right there in the middle. Next to that, 48-volt phantom power. It's a really nice thing to have on this unit, and it powers your microphone if it's a condenser that requires 48-volt phantom power. If you're on dynamic, you won't need that pressed in, but for me, on this condenser, I need that pressed in. Next to that, 80Hz high pass. 80 Hz and below will be cut out completely if you push that button in. Thankfully, there are no frequencies below 80 Hz in the human voice, so you can safely push that in and get rid of things like bass rumble, mic knocks, overhead planes, trains, and things like that. Now, this is the golden button, process bypass. If I push that in, you'll hear what my microphone sounds like before all of these dials that I'm about to show you. And brace yourself, it's a bit of a shock. This is me, a little further away from the microphone now, with the process bypass off. Lots of echo, background noise, and maybe a bit of distortion with a high signal. I don't really like it. So back to the process again. That sounds much better. Right, let's look at what these dials do and how to set them up. First of all, a compressor with drive and density. Hang on, no threshold and ratio. No, it's a little bit different on the dbx 286s. On this one, drive is how much you're driving the compressor. How much signal are you putting in? So the more you turn that up, the more you're going to drive the compressor, the more it's going to push your voice down and make it a flat line. As you can see with my setting, I'm just tickling the 3 and occasionally the 6. That's about where you want it. You don't want to go any lower than that because it's going to really crush your voice down and you're going to sound like a big radio host. But if I turn this up, you'll see how it works, and you'll hear my voice getting more and more compressed as I turn that up, and isn't that a large amount of compression, and it even compresses my breaths, so I don't really want it like that. Just around 2 is good enough for me. Density is a different story. It's kind of like attack and release. How fast is your compressor working to knock your voice down when it hears you going really loud? So I turn this up really high. If you turn it down low, it's going to work less, and this might be good for a different style of production, possibly singing, but definitely for voiceover and for podcasting, for live streaming, anything like that. You want a fast attack and release, so this compressor is working at its limit. Next to that, the DeEsser, frequency and threshold. The frequency is the area where it's going to be de-essing you, so taking out that sibilant sound when you say your S's, and hopefully, if you set this up correctly, you'll be getting a tickle on the 1 dB, not really the 6 dB, when you say S. And as you can see, it's lighting up green when I go and say words with s in, like that. Now, if I turn this up too high, you'll see that certainly I'm being reduced by 6 dB there. Turn it up too high, the threshold, you're going to sound like you've got a cold. So don't do that. How do you pick your frequency? Well, that way you turn the threshold all the way to 10 and you go until you find the most annoying frequency in your S, and then you pull that out using the threshold. Obviously turn that back down. If you've got it set up wrong, you will notice it's starting to flicker even when you're not saying S, T, or K. Let's turn that up. And now I'm speaking normally, and it's still flashing even when I'm saying normal words and not sibilant words or sibilant sounds. So very important to set that up. I've got mine just below 8 kilohertz and around 2 on the threshold mark. Next to that, this is the enhancer, the thing that I see set up the worst when I do most of my audio coaching and consulting. Most people will turn these right the way up thinking, oh, it's enhancing my voice, it's making me sound even better. But you can go too far. LF and HF, so low frequencies, high frequencies, bass and treble, basically. If we turn up the bass, you're going to sound like a public radio announcer or maybe a movie trailer voice. Could be good if you're doing, well, let's turn it up. Here we go. Lots of LF detail and wow, oh my goodness me. In a world, coming next week. But we don't really need that. So we'll turn it to about, I've got it just above 3. Same with HF, it's going to add a ton of treble to me. Let's turn it up and hear me getting all nice and crisp and clear. And unless you've got a crisp and clear OCD, you don't need to go right the way to 10 because you might break your tweeters. Okay, so turn that back down to just above 3 again here. Finally, the expander gate, really cool thing, especially if you're in a noisy environment. The expander gate is essentially going to work to cut out any of your background noise. So it will only let audio through that goes above a certain dB level. The further I turn this up, the more it's going to cut out my voice. Have a listen. So I'm talking. And did you hear, as I was turning that up, it was starting to cut my voice. So you want to set it just below that threshold so your voice gets through, but nothing else does. And when I go quiet, this will turn from the green plus to the red minus. Watch this. Red minus. Gate is closed. Gate is open when it's green. And the ratio is how hard the expander is working. Generally, you want this around 2:1. Any higher, it's going to sound a bit as it's opening and closing. And any lower, you won't really hear any effect from the expander and gate working. So 2:1 is generally where I recommend most people have that. And then finally, your output gain. Well, it's just how much audio you're putting out of the processor when it goes into your mixing board or into your audio interface or wherever you're sending it. I've got this turned down really low because I've got a lot of effects going on here. I don't need much gain. If I turn it up, it's going to get louder, obviously. I don't want to go too loud because the red clip will light up. Let me just give you a demo. Cover your ears. This is going to get loud.
And we'll turn it. Whoa, okay. Now I'm clipping. I am definitely clipping.
Okay, so I'm turning that back down, and you did definitely hear the difference there. dbx 286s, fantastic. That is how to make your voice sound better when recording, when podcasting, when live streaming, when doing a radio show, pretty much anything, voiceovers that requires the voice. dbx 286s can make you sound better. I love it. Had this unit for 6 years. Thought it was time for an updated video. Let me know how you're getting on with your settings in the comments to this video.